Today we are going to discuss the difference between experimental versus a theoretical probability. And the interesting thing is when you are doing experimental probability, that's you actually performing the task. Theoretical says the likelihood. So if you took a coin, a fair-sided coin, and you flipped it, the theoretical probability is that you would get heads half of the time, because 1/2. Then what they do is they have somebody go into a lab and perform it 1,000 times. And usually the experimental probability is super close. It will never be exact. So, what is theoretical probability? Theoretical probability describes how likely it is that an event will happen based on all possible outcomes. It is what should happen. And uses the ratio, number of ways the event can occur, number of possible outcomes. We had simplified that as yes over total. So you have, when you were doing your spinners and you're rolling the dice, you were actually doing theoretical probability. All of the problems above about rolling a standard dice are theoretical probability because you're not actually doing it. So theoretical, not actually doing it. Okay? Experimental probability is when you conduct an experiment. Experiment probability is the probability based on experimental data, which means you're actually doing it, but repeating the experiment several times. It is the actual happened and uses the ratio number of times that it happened over the outcomes. So we're still using yes over total, but we are physically doing the activity. Theoretical, here's a synopsis. Theoretical, what should happen? Experimental, I did the action and I'm giving you the results. Okay, if we rolled a standard die 100 times and recorded the results, rolled, recorded, that would be example of experimental because we did an action. See, did the action. So if I did it and I did, and I just tallied them up, and I make a list. Find the experimental probability of each event. So the probability of one, okay, so it told me 16, or sorry, it told me 100 times. So this is my yes, and this is my total. So this is 16 over 100, both divisible by 4, so 4 25ths, or 16%. 2 is 20%, or 2 out of 10, oops, 1/5, sorry, because that's 20 over 100 would be my yes over my total. Probability of a 4 is 17%. Now I can do this quickly because it's out of 100. Or 17 over 100, that's not simplified because 17 is prime. This is 6%. Oh, not probability, didn't even look at my thing. 15 out of 100, which is 15%, divisible by 5s, which is 3/20. So this is as a simplified fraction, this is as a percent. Experimental is when I did the action. Okay, next. Then what we can do is we can compare the theoretical to the experimental. Theoretical is what should, and this is what did. Okay? A coin tossed 50 times. Coin tossed. It lands on heads 28 times. Determine the experimental probability and the theoretical. So experimental is what I did, so that's 28 over 50. The theoretical, I have a head or a tail as my sample space, and lands on heads is 1 out of 2. So this is, then compare the experimental. So 28 out of 50 is actually greater than 1/2 because half of 50 is 25. Example 2. Ben draws a pen at random from a bag of pens. He records the color and replaces it. So this is independent. That's a review. His results are shown below. So he did action, right? He drew. How many times was the experiment conducted? So I have to do the frequency. I look at the frequency and I add it up. 29, 19, 27, 30, and 26, 20, and 25, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 18, 5, 2, 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, 75. I was adding. I just add it differently. Experiment probability of getting a black pen. Black is 27 yeses out of 75 total. What was the experimental of getting a blue pen? 29 out of 75 because my yes a total. Okay, he records it. Okay, so this isn't compound. They were asking two different facts. If they were asking compound of black and probability of black, then blue, and we did experimental, it would be 27 over 75 times 29 over 75 because we are replacing it, so the total does not change. So the big takeaway on this is this box right here, where theoretical is what should happen. That's how you were doing your tree diagrams in the very first part of this this chapter. Experimental is you actually do the action and somebody gives you the results in a table and then you have to figure it out.